What happens after a code enforcement complaint? Understanding the process, timelines, and real estate implications in Florida. Why code enforcement complaints matter now. Code enforcement complaints have become a more visible part of Florida's housing landscape, particularly in high-demand markets like Pinellas County. As older housing stock intersects with rising rents, tighter regulations, and more engaged residents, local governments are seeing an uptick in complaints tied to property conditions. For homeowners, landlords, buyers, and sellers, understanding what happens after a complaint is filed is no longer a niche concern. It can affect property value, rental income, transaction timelines, and even legal exposure. How a code enforcement complaint is filed. A code enforcement case typically begins with a complaint submitted to a city or county agency. Complaints may come from tenants, neighbors, HOAs, or inspectors themselves. Most jurisdictions allow anonymous filings, which means property owners are not always aware of the source. Common triggers include structural disrepair, unsafe living conditions, unpermitted work, overgrown lots, or violations of occupancy limits. In Pinellas County, complaints often relate to aging properties, storm-related damage, or deferred maintenance in rental homes. Once received, the complaint is logged and assigned to a code enforcement officer for review. The initial inspection process. After a complaint is accepted, an inspector will typically visit the property to verify whether a violation exists. This inspection may be exterior only or include interior access, depending on the nature of the complaint and whether consent or a warrant is required. If no violation is found, the case is closed. If violations are confirmed, the process moves forward regardless of whether the owner was aware of the issue. At this stage, the case becomes part of the public record, which can later surface during real estate transactions. Notice of violation and compliance deadlines. When a violation is confirmed, the property owner receives a formal notice outlining the specific code issues and the time frame for correction. These deadlines vary based on severity, with safety-related issues requiring faster action. Florida jurisdictions generally emphasize compliance rather than punishment, particularly for first-time offenses. However, failure to respond or correct violations within the stated period can escalate the matter quickly. In rental properties, owners are still responsible, even if the issue is caused by tenant behavior, such as unauthorized alterations or improper use of the property. What happens if the violation is not corrected? If deadlines are missed, the case may be referred to a code enforcement board or special magistrate. This administrative hearing allows the local authority to impose fines, set new deadlines, or authorize further enforcement action. Fines can accrue daily until compliance is achieved, sometimes reaching significant amounts over time. In extreme cases, unresolved violations can lead to liens placed against the property, complicating refinancing or sale. For investors and sellers in Pinellas County's competitive market, unresolved code cases can delay closings or reduce buyer confidence. Resolution, reinspection, and case closure. Once repairs or corrections are completed, the owner must typically request a reinspection. If the inspector verifies compliance, the case is closed and no further action is taken. It is important for owners to retain documentation, including permits, contractor invoices, and inspection reports. These records can be critical if questions arise later, particularly during a sale or lease renewal. A closed case does not usually carry ongoing penalties, but the history remains accessible through public records. How code enforcement affects property value and transactions. While a code enforcement complaint does not automatically indicate a serious problem, it can influence perception. Buyers may view open cases as risk, and lenders may require resolution before funding. For rental properties, repeated complaints can signal management issues and attract closer scrutiny from local authorities. Proactive maintenance and clear communication often reduce the likelihood of repeat enforcement actions. Key takeaways for property owners. Code enforcement is designed to protect public safety and neighborhood standards, not to surprise or penalize responsible owners. Most cases are resolved through timely action and cooperation. Understanding the process, responding promptly, and addressing root causes rather than surface issues can prevent minor complaints from becoming costly problems. In Florida's evolving housing market, informed property owners are better positioned to protect both value and reputation.